MPs are debating whether some terminally ill adults should be allowed to end their lives with medical help. Heated debate over proposals which would allow people with less than 6 months to live to be prescribed a lethal dose of Good afternoon and welcome to the BBC News at 1. There have been unprecedented scenes in the House of Commons as MPs debate one of the most contentious of issues, whether terminally ill patients should be allowed to ask a doctor to help them die. Emotions are running high on both sides of the argument, which has brought intense debate inside the worlds of religion, medicine and politics. Under the proposals, people in England and Wales with less than 6 months to live could be prescribed a lethal dose of drugs which only they would be allowed to administer. Caroline Wyatt reports.
Outside Parliament, the effigy of a judge brandishing a syringe loomed over those who came to make their voices heard. The strength of feeling unmistakable over assisted dying, as its supporters call it, or assisted killing, as it's known by its opponents.
Lock the doors!
Inside the House of Commons, the divide was just as stark.
More than 85 members have indicated that they wish to catch my eye in this debate, which is unprecedented.
The bill says that 2 doctors and a High Court judge would have to be satisfied of the patient's eligibility, defined as being terminally ill with less than 6 months to live, mentally fit to make the decision and aware of alternatives before the right to die would be granted. The medication would be prescribed by doctors, but the patient must administer it themselves. MPs can vote today according to their conscience on the private members' bill proposed by Labour MP Rob Marris.
I and many other people would find it comforting to know that the choice was available. To have the option of choosing a dignified and peaceful death at a time and place and in a manner of my own choosing at my own hand.
I think it's naive to believe that we can prevent the persuasion of an elderly, expensive or asset-rich relative being encouraged, coerced or emotionally blackmailed into taking their own life. And if just one person makes that decision to end their life through such result of pressure, I believe that would be an absolute tragedy.
On the Conservative benches, the views were just as strongly held.
I understand that the Catholic and faith lobby will have in principle objections to this. But I am slightly appalled that they should seek to sustain legislation that limits my personal autonomy.
We are here to protect the most vulnerable in our society, not to legislate to kill them. This bill is not merely flawed, it is legally and ethically totally unacceptable, and we must reject it.
There are powerful arguments on both sides. Before he ended his own life at a Swiss clinic, cancer patient Jeffrey Spector argued in favour of assisted dying, which would have allowed him more time with his now widow Elaine and daughter Kelly.
Jeffrey's fear was paralysis, and if the law in this country allowed it, he would have gone right up to the last nanosecond, as he always said.
So he could still have been here.
He could still be here, that's right.
But Michael Wenham and his wife Jane are opposed. He has a rare form of motor neurone disease which affects his mobility and his speech. They fear the assisted dying bill would put pressure on the most vulnerable.
I think the purpose of law is to protect the many, not to enable the few. This is a few who want to take their lives.
Caroline Wyatt, BBC News.
Our political correspondent Sean Curran is in Westminster. It's ironic that because of this unprecedented interest in this particular subject, it may not actually get through.
That's right. 85 MPs wanting to speak on a Friday is almost unheard of. The Commons is very full today. If the bill is voted down, then it won't make any more progress. If MPs approve the bill and it clears its first parliamentary hurdle, then the next stage is a detailed examination of the proposals. MPs will go through the bill line by line. It'll also be the moment when MPs will be able to propose changes. And of course, this gives opponents of the bill their biggest chance to delay or block the change in the law. If they can come up with enough proposals and eat up enough parliamentary time, they could thwart the bill. And that's because it's a private member's bill. It's not a government bill with government time. It'll have to be debated on Fridays, and there are only a handful of Fridays set aside in each parliamentary session for this sort of legislation. Now, Mr Maris and his bill have a better chance than most MPs because he came top of the list, and this is the first time since the election MPs have debated this sort of legislation. But only a handful of these sort of bills ever make it to the statute book.
Sean, thank you very much. Let's talk now to our medical correspondent Fergus Walsh. And presumably the two sides of the debate are as much in evidence within the medical profession.
Absolutely. Many doctors want nothing to do with this whatsoever. They see this as crossing a line that they really don't want to. And, of course, it will be open to individual doctors to refuse, but some hospices have said if they decline to offer assisted dying, they might lose NHS funding. But in countries where assisted dying is offered, and most legislation is based on that in Oregon, with less than 6 months to live and terminally ill patients, there are enough doctors, plenty of doctors, who are willing to sign up for it. But I think what's very significant today is David Cameron has come out and said that he doesn't see a need for this. And without tacit government support for a private member's bill like this, especially something so controversial, even if it gets through the vote today, which would itself be a big boost for supporters of assisted dying, it's unlikely to actually make it to the statute book.
Fergus, thank you very much.